I'd like to welcome you to this presentation by Pivot Cloud Solutions. I'm Jacinta Mandiam, and you may or may not know that Pivot Cloud Solutions is a technology company specializing in AI and machine learning solutions, specifically for established businesses, particularly those with legacy mainframe systems. And today's webinar is especially about COBOL mainframe to cloud migration. And we hope that you will get from this presentation a much broader perspective on the issues pertaining to migration, the various options that are available currently for solutions, and that you will be more informed in making decisions for either your business or your team to move forward. The main presenter today, who I'm about to introduce you to, is Guru Prasad. He is our CEO, and he has considerable expertise in financial services and specifically in the technology sector. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Guru Prasad. Thank you, Guru.
Thank you, Jacinta. Hi, my name is Guru Prasad. I'm co-founder of Pivot Cloud Solutions. Today's program will specifically target how COBOL applications can be migrated into cloud easily. COBOL has been around for 60 years and they're estimated over 300 billion lines of code in existence. More than half of them are processing high value and highly critical transactions. Original COBOL has been well designed. You can say it is one of the first microservice architecture. However, the complexities and additions and other changes, business changes that's required being incorporated into the COBOL makes it harder to move into cloud applications. In the first few slides, we'll see what are the current options available, and we can examine difficulties as well as the other easiest way of moving forward. Most importantly, giving a right tools for the right people, you can accomplish a lot more in a lot shorter time with a very little risk. Any legacy technology, there are same type of challenges we face when dealing with 30, 40, 50 years old code that is needed to be examined. You have a huge discrepancy in the knowledge sharing. Even though there is a documentation is available, the changes are being made over a period of time, business requirements being incorporated into them, make it harder to even understand. Business fulfillment, when you move to cloud, you just don't want the old wine in a new bottle, but it is something that you wanted to easily add new functionality or business requirements into it and move forward. Especially with the newcomers in the market, you have to be competitive as well as efficient. Disruption is one of the biggest bottlenecks. If you stop your entire operation while you are migrating, it is more counterproductive, and you don't want to be stuck with stopping over several days of productivity while your migration is going on. Future proofing, you were looking for something like the technology you are going to be choosing. Every organization has their preferred path to go forward, and you are also making sure that being followed through, even with the legacy migration. You look for maintainability. Your DevOps teams should be able to easily take on board the migrated technology and move forward with it, rather than trying to spend a lot of training time and trying to get a skill sets on board, which may or may not be available in the marketplace. Vendor lock-in is one of the biggest problems we've seen last several years, especially the companies who've been bought, third-party companies like Adebos or Delta are suffering right now because most of those products are either out of their licensing period or discontinued their licensing model so that they're not actually changing anything. So now you're left with a product that is several decades old and you cannot move forward. We'll start with what are the options available in the marketplace. Traditionally, any migration of a cloud legacy software into any other form, either on-premise J2E type of environment or even C# environment or anything that you have in place, is always being done manually. You recruit manual external consultants or internal consultants. They will examine, and they do all the conversion for you. Code parsers have been around last 2 decades. So we'll have a more in-depth look at it in the next few slides. The upcoming more promising option is a lift and shift. The risk of losing business or a functional aspects of your application is quite low with a lift and shift methodology, where you are getting rid of a vendor lock-in. At the same time, you're also gaining your cloud strategy a leg up in the future forward. So in the next few slides, we'll examine individually what are the pros and cons of each option, where to go. Manual migration, as I mentioned, it has been around for a while. Normally, you take a domain experts who have been working on the particular your own domain with a COBOL, decades of COBOL experience. They walk in, they do examine your code, and they'll document, and I'll give you a set of finished documents where you can use them with a business analyst to start a new project that will incorporate all the requirements that have been captured, what they call requirements, what's existing one. And then you can move forward from it. It's a lengthy, very risky process, but it is considered to be very reliable until now. We'll see why. Outsourcing is another option that's been preferred for a while now, because if you outsource your entire application migration, you are moving your risk from you to the third party. However, not all outsourcing companies will take such a risk, because they started to understand the complications and the hurdles involved in order to migrate any legacy code. So they always have a stipulations put it in place, which will more or less a counterproductive. So the second option, we'll move on to the second option, which is a code parsers. Last 2 decades, there is evolution of technologies like open source technologies like Antler. They are successfully managed to incorporate most of the COBOL, PL1, RPG tool sets. There are language features so that they can be migrated into line by line into Java. This option is very much suitable if you are only looking for a simplistic or not very complicated applications. At the same time, the migrated application, i.e. say a COBOL application moved into Java, it is literally unreadable by a human beings, because it's been done in such a way that they're all doing a line-by-line conversion. The code parsers require certain level of machine language notations being used in the middle. So you end up in a code that will function more or less the same, but you may not be able to change or enhance the functionality that you would like to do. So these are the pros and cons you have to weigh if you're considering the code parsers. Some consultants are preferred to use it to understand what are the challenges they may be facing in migrating legacy code. The upcoming very promising option is a lift and shift, where your application is lifted from the old platform and moved into a cloud, more or less intact, and containerize it or use in the third party's multi-tenant infrastructure, where you run exactly like that with an additional capacity as well as the security and other aspects that you want to incorporate, so that your application is literally moved into the cloud. This is the more option in this particular webinar. We're going to discuss more in detail, and also we can, if we can bear with us, we can introduce our platform and how it can make your life easier. Lift and shift incorporates what is been out there in a modular approach, where your COBOL applications will be taken and use the Open COBOL or GNU COBOL type of compilers, either compile them or use the source code itself that can be run on a Linux environment. So you can move that into a containerized application, and that unit itself would be working as it is in the cloud. Your JCLs will be turned into cron jobs, so that all the data inputs or MQ messages coming through, they would be converted on fly and they fed into the container application. So they will be, they can execute the logic and they transform the data that is been happening in the mainframe environment. BMS maps to be turned into Angular or HTML, CSS type of things. These are mostly they use the tools to convert them. You will reach a high degree of accuracy because they're not very complicated. So working with the old code can be very difficult. If you're worked in a complex environment, you will always come across the same type of problems. They may not be exactly the same problems, but more or less fall into the same category of problems. Lack of documentation, even if there is a documentation, it's either change or someone will tell you that's not exactly how it is actually working today. So you end up not knowing what is happening in the code. Data on the data integrity, so you will have to have enough data to even test an application that is running. Code can be very complex, and this code been evolved over several, even sometimes decades. So the original coders are no longer be available on hand. So there's a lot of other developers that actually change the code to incorporate the more and more business requirements and logic. Even some cases, they duplicate the functionality because they may require the same type of data for a different channel consumption. Like if you're developing a mobile application, you might have copied already the same module to provide input for the mobile application consumption. The third-party softwares like Delta or Adibos would probably cause more problems than they solve. They've been implemented for a certain business functionality at that time. A lot of them are already out of date, or they no longer be supported in the original form. So can we address all these problems? In the end of the day, it is making your life easier. Number one, you have to have enough information and excitement about your changing, the moving, working on the environment. Say if you're working on a COBOL to moving into a cloud, you can't expect to be same level of both business knowledge as well as the experience on COBOL as the developers who are actually originally coded. So that causes a lot of drift. By adapting what constitute as a lift and shift in a systematic, step-by-step, or a modular way, you can achieve high degree of success. We categorize them as 3 stages. In the stage 1, continuous migration. Take the module, move into cloud so that it will have same functionality with a higher throughput. Once that step is being tested, you are actually using a low skilled or in-house the skilled employee resources to start modifying and using that module so that you're free from your legacy application altogether. Then you can choose to convert. Now you no longer wanted to work on a COBOL or other application that's been there. You wanted to change it in such a way that it can for future proofing it. You can adapt moving those into microservices of chosen language. Say if you're a Java house, you always wanted to work with the Java so that COBOL no longer be used in organization. Entire organization will be using a Java. You could use a templated code converters can use to move into microservices. We have got a lot of success with RPG type of or insurance clients where tens of products be moved quite easily, because once you understood one product, rest of them follows the suit, and you are literally targeting each application. And once it is understood what data has been going through and the logic is being profiled, and you are moving into the Java code quite easily. When you're dealing with a highly complex applications, for example, if you're in an insurance business, you understand changing a policyholder's address as well as the policy type could cause enormous business rule and business processes executed in the middle. Even sometimes there is a dozen or more business rules being applied. Understanding these ones, even manually try to do that, it is a daunting task. So let's start with the easiest, the continuous migration. Our platform provides developer portal, which will make it almost like easy. There's no need to have an extensive COBOL experience. You can come along and you can just take a module, move into containers or application, and the platform provides you an API out of the box. So now you have a old application running exactly the way it is running before, with a REST API as a bonus. So now you have a Docker container that can be moved into your preferred cloud provider. You are no longer be restricted to a particular vendor. It also gives you an API out of the box. What it means is the API can be used by other channels as well as your other products. You don't have to buy expensive API layers. At this stage, it is also easily lend itself to use the your enterprise applications to extend the functionality. You can just use the Nodejs, Python to add functionality. For example, if a statement is being generated for a PDF and a printer, now suddenly you wanted to have that same statement to be in a JSON format for a mobile consumption, adding as simple as a few lines of code and incorporating into the containerized code, it'll give you an ability to deliver within a short period of time. Now your mobile app has a statement is delivered in a way it can display in its own format. As a bonus, you will get higher scaling because of the cloud. So at this stage, you have all your applications are in cloud. So now you are completely away from your legacy dependency. You can stop there. You can move forward with all the containers applications in the cloud and start using the cloud applications being locked down and start adding the functionality in the front and are redeveloping and recoding, manually doing all the necessary development, further developments from there onwards. But you don't have to stop there. You could actually use the tool set to generate microservices add AI to business requirements, because it's available in a REST format. Now you can actually code without writing extensive code or learning about AI, how it works. You can actually drag and drop features. So you can use that. What if is data, learn from this data and produce the result for me for this data. When this happens, perform this particular action. So you could actually do this whole thing with a few lines of code, or even just on the platform drag and drop feature. This is where a platform differentiates from commercial products where they only support vendor-locked containerizer models, or even moving from the same platform into another vendor-locked platform. The machine learning is another, this is the feature what we're talking about. It will give you an ability to examine what are the rules and processes are being executing within the code. Want to know about how this particular rule is being applied, where it's been applied, and how it's been applied, and what circumstances been applied. All those profiles would be learned as you use the data. You don't have to disturb any of the process or your business interruption. You can simply fire and forget. You can just ask for a platform, here is my module, and tell me when this particular rule is being executed and how it's being executed. With that level of support, you will be able to learn, perform, one person can perform almost like a 10 people's productivity, because all the tool set provides them power of knowledge. So you can easily generate the microservices. You could use a test with an AI. As I mentioned before, once your containerized application is being exposed as a REST API, you can also train the AI to see what was and what is. So with the same set of data, you can verify what was working in a previous platform, how the output has been performed, and you can test again as the same set of the data, and with the new converted microservices or the containerized application, and examine is the data is being produced exactly the same way and the same consistency. Because this can be done automatically by the AI, you save time and efforts, as well as you guarantee that your container application is not actually misperforming, or that you missed any dependencies that may affect your overall migration path. So what can you expect out of this? Pivotal platform can migrate a code automatically in cases of a simple enough, it's a data-oriented applications where they're generating reports, or they were performing simple data manipulation. Say 80 to 90% of most of the organizations' operations are data-oriented. You're saving data or retrieving data and performing very little logic in between. In those cases, 80 to 90% cases, you can generate all the legacy microservices automatically. In cases of more complex and extensive logic or processes being involved, you could use our what we call have a process insights to examine each and every rule set. So every complex business rule embedded within the code and the module can be profiled automatically and documented for you. So that means a Java developer can take a COBOL module and work with it as if it's been another closed application, and Process Insights gives them everything what is going on internally. You can also automate every step of the way. As we discussed before, we can have your testing, functional and unit testing can be automated every step of the way, so reducing 50 to 60% of your time and efforts. You can also add AI to the process so that you can enhance how every business is being performing. So we come to the end of the presentation. I will just run through a couple of questions that we may have at this point of time. So it will give us a bit of a time left, so we can just run through them. Who does the migration? So the migration can be done either our professional services or your own people, because the platform provides quite a lot of automated feature, so that once it is configured and targeted, it gives you ability to use with a very little training. Therefore, you could use that to offset your own skill sets. The code parsers are quite it seems to be a good option if you are looking for to generate COBOL code into a Java code. It's if you look at any other way, by containerizing the entire COBOL code, you don't have to worry about how it has been functioning. Therefore, code parsers perform no function at all. But if you're looking to change the code and enhance the code, code parsers gives you unreadable code. Therefore, it's a counterproductive by using it, except if you're looking for simple creating entire module as a Java class and just use the Java class as a Java class so that you can write your Java within your embedded within your application, then it might work very well in our environment. So in that case, it can be chosen as a preferred solution. So do we need to know COBOL to work with the platform? No. Simple answer is no. The knowledge of COBOL can help you, but you don't have to have a extensive knowledge or any knowledge of COBOL to work with platform. You could just use any legacy system, target with AI, learn about all the business rules and processes, and move them seamlessly into cloud. Hope we answered most of the questions you may have in the migrating highly complex COBOL type of applications into cloud. We'll be happy to hear from you. If you have any questions or would like to see a demo, we're happy to organize them for you. So thank you very much for joining us in our small talk. And the next time we going to run through a practical examples and show you what can be achieved by using our platform as a tool set. Thank you very much.